This is Core and we're back covering more classic survival horror today. In today's lineup, we're taking a shot at Fatal Frame 2, a ghostly experience where your only weapon is a camera. Hope you've taken your photography classes, because you're going to need to nail those shots if you want a chance to survive. Before we begin the review proper, I want to give a shout out to the lovely Katophoenix who did the excellent artwork on today's video. Now let's dive in and explore this village, shall we? Within Fatal Frame 2, you play as a pair of twins named Mayu and Mio, who have been trapped in the lost All Gods village. Within, you'll fight for your life as you're ensnared in the plot of ghosts who seek to sacrifice your lives in the hope that with your death, you'll keep the gates of hell from opening. There's a variety of characters, but most of them are ghosts that either serve to provide plot and lore or attack, with the one exception of a ghost boy named Itsuki, who is longtime friends of the two original shrine maidens named Yai and Sai. He helped them to escape the village after him and his twin sacrifice did nothing. He's pretty much the only real NPC you have to talk to, and you could go back to him and get hints and figure out what you'd have to do if you get stuck. Plus, it's just nice to see a friendly person within a village full of hateful ghosts. This game was developed by Tecmo, and was developed as a less intense but still interesting story after the first game caused many players to become too frightened to finish the game, and they wanted players to see their experience through this time. This game is a fixed camera angle survival horror game released in November of 2003. It's probably one of the last classic survival horror titles, with this, Haunting Ground released in 2005, Rule of Rose in 2006. After this, much of horror becomes action horror due to the success of Resident Evil 4 and everyone wanting a piece of that action. Overall though, the story is excellent, and if you want a good ending, the game's gonna make you work for it. But overall, I'm pleased with how it played out. Now let's talk about how it plays, shall we? A bygone era, but one that I love so much. The classic fixed camera angle generation of horror, where the origins of Resident Evil, Silent Hill, Alone in the Dark, and more all spawned. And on top of that, this is also survival horror. So you better believe you best watch your resources and learn quick, or you'll be fighting with the weakest film you can find. And so the big twist in this game is the fact you can only fight back with the camera obscura, a camera that lets you see what can't be seen and capture what can't be captured. I believe this is in reference to how some cultures believe photos can capture the souls of those who have their pictures taken, and how in popular urban myth it's often believed that you could capture spirits in ways the naked eye can't. But back on topic, this camera is your only weapon, and to fight spirits you have to have film. There's 5 or so various films that have different stats. Your Type 7 and Type 14 are the films you start with, and Type 14 is the most common if you don't count the fact that Type 7 is infinite. Each film varies how fast you can load it, how much damage it does. The Type 7 infinite film loads slow and it hits weak, while the Type 90 hits fast and hard. And Type 0 is a special film that hits extremely hard but also reloads very slowly, while also being rare as fuck to boot. Healing items are also limited, but they aren't extremely rare. There are 3 types of healing items: the herbal medicine, which heals slightly, the sacred water, which heals fully, and the stone mirror, a held item which you can only hold one of at a time. But if you fall dead, it will revive you, with the exception of dying to a certain enemy who has a one-shot. Now let's talk enemies, shall we? What horror game is complete without foes? Now this game is definitely a slow burn. I didn't fight my first enemy till about 30 minutes in. Now to be fair, I was dicking around and exploring, so it's probably closer to 10 or 20 minutes, but still, they throw traces of them, but you don't fight your first foe until you find the camera in the first house. Once you do, it's go time. The game starts to throw enemies at you. You're fighting all the various ghosts that the game could conjure to fight. All sorts of different villagers, from those armed with farming utensils and torches, to veiled priests casting out spirits, and even children playing a twisted game of hide and fucking seek. If I didn't have a good enough reason to hate children before, motherfucking ghost children definitely cemented my dislike for them. The enemies also have various different behaviors that depends on the type of ghost they are. Some are slow and plodding, while others are quick, constantly teleporting around. and only opening for limited windows of attack if you're lucky that you may be able to get that quick fatal frame on. Now let's go back to the camera for a bit. I've talked about it and its ammo, but there's a proper upgrade system within the game. To upgrade your camera, you have to find spirit orbs, some of which are found in the world and others are earned for defeating enemies. Once you have these orbs, you can slot them into the various functions of the cameras, which range from range, how many special shots you can fire off without a recharge, how much damage you can do with each blast, to upgrading the special functions that you find throughout the game. Each special function modifies your camera to have a different ability, from slowing an enemy to stunning them entirely or hitting them with massive bonus damage, and even unlocking new passive abilities such as the fatal frame. If you nail a snap when the red light at the top of the screen is flashing, you'll do massive damage and open them up for a second combo shot to pile even more damage on them and even stagger those ghostly dickheads back. One last thing I should mention about the camera is the point system. You earn points for how you pull off shots. The fancier and more impressive the shot is, like say a triple ghost fatal frame, the more points you're rewarded with. And you use these points to afford the upgrades that you unlock access to with the spirit orbs. Now keeping in line with traditional survival horror, save points are all manual. There's no checkpoints here. You die and you go back to the last time you saved the game. But there's no limit on how many times you could save, so there's some small mercy. Another thing in line with traditional survival horror is the fact you're intended to explore every last nook and cranny. There's loot everywhere, enemies everywhere. Open all the boxes, find everything you can. You basically want to be as thorough as possible to find all the loot you can if you want the best chance of surviving this hell. And you want to defeat as many enemies as possible to earn enough points and orbs to upgrade your weapon. Now control wise, the game controls fine. It's a fixed camera angle without tank controls. To combat the weird shift that would traditionally come with a camera change, when you change cameras, your character keeps going the same way they were going until you nudge the stick differently. Now one thing I like is that if you hold down the sprint button, it actually auto runs you so you don't have to hold the stick down to move, just to change directions and such. The game actually does do a pretty good job of explaining how to use the unique mechanics of this series as well, so don't worry about being too confused on how to play. Now there are some parts of the game where you play with an NPC, and one thing the game doesn't tell you is she has an invisible non-refilling health bar, so if she does die, it's game over. Now that being said, she rarely dies unless on the higher difficulties, and usually she can actually be helpful, as when the enemy goes for a grab on her, you can score an easy fatal frame on the ghost. But luckily she isn't with you the entire game. A lot of it you're actually following her in an attempt to save her and escape the village. Oh ho ho, I love this game in this regard. It fucking rocks. I love the atmosphere, the spooks, the design, how much traditional Japanese culture and pop horror inspires the game. There's obviously a lot of inspiration for the likes of say The Ring or The Grudge, even down the creepy little demon ghost girls who are bitter as fuck about having to perform a ritualistic human sacrifice to keep the gates of hell closed. That's a pretty cool ass concept in itself. And you combine the freaky enemies and the sounds they make, from muttering and crying incoherently to being confused and wondering why you won't give them what they want, or like the ghost of Miyako, who is constantly searching for her boyfriend, wondering why he killed her, while also crying as to why she was killed. And whenever you're in an area with spectral activity, the camera filament will light up and glow. The stronger the glow, the closer you are to it, and the closer you are to the right direction. I just love the atmosphere of what's on display here. Couple the creepy ass enemies, the ambience of the decrepit ghostly village, and the awesome atmosphere. This is a fantastic experience and a treat to play through. Seriously, just check out some of the ambience of a ghost forcing its way out of a trunk. Fucking awesome, ain't it? As far as performance goes, the game plays well, and I didn't notice any hiccups with my copy. Especially as my copy was a sealed copy and as clean as a whistle, so there was no risk of it being scratched or having issues from that. Overall though, it's an excellent atmosphere and plays smoothly. Well, here we are again, back at the end of yet another review. So what do I think of this game as a whole? Oh fuck, I loved it. It's been one of my favorite experiences of this year, and it's a damn good way to introduce Spooktober. More on that in a bit, but overall, I'd definitely recommend you go out and get this game. It's actually fairly cheap and easy to get a hold of on both PS2 and Xbox. And with a new Fatal Frame game coming out this October, it's a damn good time to get into the series and try them out. If you're looking for a good classic survival horror with traditional Japanese folklore and supernatural tinge, give Fatal Frame a play. I'm sure if you enjoy classics like this, you'll enjoy immensely. Now back to that Spooktober I mentioned. We're going to be playing on twitch.tv/core955 all month long. Just horror games, from the classics like Silent Hill and Resident Evil, to more modern experiences like Lost in Vivo or Project Zomboid, to some hidden gems that didn't get the spotlight they deserved like Haunted Ground and Extermination. If this interests you, be sure to pop over to Twitch and check things out. I want to give one last shout out to Katophoenix for her lovely artwork on this video. This has been Core, thank you all for the support, and I'll see you in the next video.